Kel, can you talk for me?
Yes, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We can.
Turn it up full blast. We can just hear her slightly.
Kel, she's in the hallway. Can you talk closer to your computer?
Mm-hmm. 10,
Closer. Yeah, go ahead.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Kenna, how high is it up?
We can just barely hear her if we turn our volume up full blast.
But will you get feedback from that?
It might be that.
Is there a different laptop that could be used?
Oh, it's a cheap laptop.
Why would you need a different laptop then?
I mean, they did something on that particular laptop.
Is your battery full?
Okay, if you can come on the Zoom and now. I gotta cut this one off.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, he's calling Kenneth now. Can you come on with your, thank you. Kenneth, all right, can you count to 10 for me?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, Kenneth, we hear her in the room, but I see you all still got feedback. Y'all can amplify it without it over modulating. Kenneth. There's no way y'all could pump it up. Yes. You all are not receiving the sound from the Zoom. You are getting a video. You don't have the sound. The sound is fine here. And for some reason, you all are not getting the Zoom feed. Yes. He's on his way here, but I'm thinking we can just tape it. Let them do it on their Zoom and give you the file. Well, it gotta be something with the feed coming back, because it's fine in here. I don't know. Look, Matt will be here, but look, let's do this. Let's do the hearing. Let them do the camera. We send you all the tape, and then you'll broadcast it later. And you'll just make sure we make sure we capture the sound. We can go to our room and fool with that, but I want to get this started. Yeah, we're gonna do 412. All right. All right, we're gonna do 412. You can get it. Y'all can start. We just need to make sure that you capture the recording.
On YouTube.
Yeah, and we're going to take that and send it to them.
So as long as our YouTube
Right, but it ain't gonna be live on TV right
It'll be a while.
now. Won't be live. How's it gonna be live if you can't get the sound? Right, you can't be live.
I don't say.
Yes,
Give you
if you give them out the link,
YouTube.
yes.
Right, you gotta give them up the link.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just grab it.
Granicus and cable.
All right, Ken, if that's how we're gonna do it, how many people is it? It's a couple of people.
We have two.
All right. We're ready. All right. Good morning. I'm at-large council member Anita Bonds, chairperson of the Committee on Executive Administration and Labor. The time is 11:20 a.m. on Thursday, March 19th, 2026. I'm calling to order this public roundtable to consider nominations to the Commission on Poverty. These nominations will be deemed approved on April 4th, 2026, unless a resolution of approval or disapproval is introduced. Before hearing from our nominees, I'd like to provide the public with brief background about the Commission on Poverty, followed by background on the work of our nominees. The Commission on Poverty was established to advise the mayor and the council on policies aimed at addressing systemic barriers faced by individuals in poverty. The commission was established by DC Code 3-641.02 and falls under the purview of the Department of Employment Services. The commission is tasked with creating and overseeing a comprehensive poverty reduction plan and setting new benchmarks every 5 years. The commission is composed of 19 members appointed by the mayor, including 11 at-large representatives and 8 representatives with lived experience. The commission includes 8 ex officio members from the district's government key agencies. Now, we will have before us today the following individuals who have been nominated to the commission: Yvonne Boyd, Elijah Moses, Isaac Harris, Caesar Toledo, and Cordelia Williams. Our first nominee today, Ms. Boyd, is a dedicated social services professional with more than 20 years of experience advocating for underserved communities and expanding equitable access to critical resources. She is appointed to serve as an at-large representative, filling a vacant seat formerly held by Ms. Green for the remainder of an unexpired term that will end on January 1, 2028. Ms. Boyd is a Ward 1 representative and has served in key roles within the DC Department of Health, DC Cancer Consortium, and a wider circle Ward 8 hub. She holds a degree from the University of the District of Columbia and the University of Denver University College. Our second nominee, Mr. Isaac Harris, serves as the administrative assistant at the Community for Creative Nonviolence. He is experienced also as a front desk manager at Respite, formerly known as Infirmary, where he trained and supervised office staff. He was appointed to the Ward 6 representative member position, filling a vacancy. That term will end on April 4, 2029. He is a Ward 6 resident and earned his diploma from the Luke Moore High School. Our third nominee, Mr. Elijah Moses, is a workforce development professional with 15 years experience. Also, he is a licensed carpenter, locksmith in Maryland, and an adjunct instructor who has worked with agencies including the Department of Employment Services, the Department of Disability Services, and the University of the District of Columbia, where he significantly expanded workforce training and the Career Technical Education Program. Mr. Moses is reappointed to serve as an at-large representative for a term that will end on November 18, 2027. He is a Ward 7 resident and founder of the nonprofit Wise Young Builders, which teaches carpentry and math to youth ages 8 to 13. He is also involved in consulting, real estate development, and workforce compliance, supporting businesses and government contracting requirements. Our 4th nominee, Mr. Caesar Toledo, is Executive Director of the Wanda Austin Foundation, bringing over a decade of experience in advancing equity and social justice, where he held national leadership roles, mobilizing the LGBTQ plus voters for the Harris for President campaign and helped elect LGBTQ plus candidates across the country through the Victory Fund. Mr. Toledo is a new appointee to serve as an at-large representative member, filling a vacant seat formerly held by Ms. Cannon for the remainder of the unexpired term that ends on November 18th, 2028. Mr. Toledo is a Ward 6 resident and has served in the Peace Corps and led advocacy efforts in education, immigration, and democracy. He earned his Bachelor's of Art in Global Studies from the University of California, Riverside. Last but not least is our 5th nominee, Cordelia Williams, who is a National Senior Director of Policy and Advocacy at LIFT. That is a national anti-poverty organization dedicated to advancing family economic mobility. She also leads LIFT's policy and advocacy strategy across 4 regions, including the District of Columbia. Ms. Williams is being reappointed to serve as an at-large representative member for a term to end January 1, 2028. Drawing on her life experience with poverty and homelessness, she is a Ward 1 representative who brings both personal and professional expertise to her work. She currently serves in both national and local leadership roles under organizations such as the National Homelessness Law Center and DC's Bright Beginnings. And I certainly look forward to a full conversation today with these outstanding individuals. And at this time, I will turn and see if any of my colleagues are on. Okay, so we will be soloing today, and perhaps a colleague may join us later. So we will now have the opportunity to hear from our public witnesses. And we'll start with Ms. Boyd, who is joining us virtually. And I believe we have one other who is also, and also Mr. Moses, Elijah Moses. Both are virtual. We'll take their testimony and then we'll move immediately to our panel. So Ms. Boyd, I hope this is that you are on, and we will take your testimony when you're ready.
I am on. Good morning, Chairperson Bond. I'm Yvonne Boyd, and it is my pleasure to receive your consideration for my nomination to serve on the Commission on Poverty. I am grateful to Mayor Bowser for nominating me and honored to have this opportunity to serve the residents of the District of Columbia. For more than 20 years, my career has focused on advancing health equity, economic opportunity, and community well-being in Washington, D.C. I currently serve as the director of the Ward 8 Hub at a Wider Circle, where I lead community-based programs that support residents facing barriers related to poverty, unemployment, and access to resources. My work focuses on strengthening community engagement, building partnerships with local organizations, and designing programs that respond directly to the needs expressed by residents. Throughout my career, I have worked across government, nonprofit, and community sectors. I previously served at DC Health, where I managed healthcare access initiatives and oversaw millions of dollars in grant funding aimed at expanding services in underserved communities. I later served as executive director of the DC Cancer Consortium, where I successfully advocated for additional city funding to expand chronic disease prevention and health education efforts across the district. In addition, as CEO of Community Wellness Alliance, I secured more than $1.5 million in grants and developed partnerships that expanded services to thousands of residents and workers. My experience has provided me with a practical understanding of how poverty intersects with health, employment, housing stability, and access to opportunity. In my current role in Ward 8, I work closely with residents who face these challenges every day. This proximity to community allows me to bring both data and lived community perspectives into conversations about policy and systems change. I have extensive experience developing programs based on community input, implementing systems to track outcomes, and translating these insights into actionable strategies. My background in strategic planning, coalition building, and program evaluation allows me to help identify solutions that are not only well-intentioned, but also measurable and sustainable. I believe effective policy must be informed by the voices of the people most impacted, and I'm committed to ensuring that community perspectives are represented in discussions about poverty reduction. If confirmed, I look forward to contributing to the Commission's work by helping identify practical strategies that strengthen economic stability, expand access to resources, and improve quality of life for district residents. I'm particularly interested in supporting efforts that align community-based insights with policy development so that programs and investments produce meaningful outcomes for families across the city. I believe that addressing poverty requires collaboration between government, community, and residents themselves. My goal in serving this commission would be to help advance thoughtful, data-informed recommendations that create pathways to opportunity and long-term stability. Thank you, Chairperson Bond, for this opportunity to testify. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very, very much for your testimony. And do we have Mr. Moses on? Mr. Moses, we'll take your testimony. All right. Mr. Moses, they tell me you have to unmute yourself.
Yes, good morning, and how are you, Councilwoman Bonds?
Good morning. We're happy
Well,
to
thank
have
you.
you.
Yes, thank you. I am normally interested in appearing in person, but I am double booked today. Please note that I would prefer to be in person. And I would start out by saying thank you for your time, your service, and commitment to the District of Columbia. Good afternoon, Chairperson Bonds and members of the committee today. I am Elijah Moses, referred to as Chairman Moses or just Moses. And it's my pleasure to receive recommendation or consideration for my renomination to serve on the Commission on Poverty. I am also grateful for the mayor, Muriel Bowser, and the District of Columbia staff and the people for nominating me, and honored to have the opportunity to serve the residents of the district. I'm also would like to note that I like to give honor to native Washingtonians, of which I am not a native, but I've been here almost 20 years and feel like I belong in the District of Columbia. I'm humbled to serve humbled to have the opportunity to speak before you today as concerned as a compassionate member of our community. I'm honored to have been nominated to serve on a Commission on Poverty and appreciate the opportunity to speak about my qualifications. I have witnessed the city's growth and challenges. Unfortunately, amidst the prosperity, many of the fellow residents continue to struggle under the burden of poverty. Poverty is not merely an economic issue, it's also a complex web of interconnected issues that affect the city's most vulnerable people, residents, and families. Poverty has a small taste, poverty has a smell, a taste, a look, locations, and a captive population. And there are ways that the District of Columbia has decided to intentionally work to remedy that. I firmly believe in freedom from poverty and am ready to lend my skills, experience, and dedication to fight against poverty in our nation's capital. So much of my time has been serving residents in the Southeast community, directly on Martin Luther King. I've given a huge portion of my service both to nonprofit work and through laboring through the District of Columbia government, working for agencies that are mentioned, including but not limited to the Department of Employment Service, as well as the University of the District of Columbia, as well as serving a nonprofit at Youth Bills through Sasha Bruce, serving 18 to 24-year-olds who had dropped out of high school or stopped out of high school to obtain their GED and high school diploma. And they would affectionately call me Mr. Moses. I have seen firsthand generational poverty and its challenges to the city. I've also worked with scores of individuals and groups, providing free education opportunities to thousands and job placement to thousands in the city to make sure that they transition out of poverty. So my vision for the Poverty Commission is grounded in collaboration and innovation. I recognize that addressing poverty requires a comprehensive approach that involves the public, private, nonprofit sectors, and working hand in hand. My ability to build strong partnerships, strong relationships, and foster relationships among diverse stakeholders will be instrumental in finding sustainable solutions. If reappointed to the Commission on Poverty, my priorities will be advocating policies that promote economic growth while ensuring equitable access and opportunities for all residents, advocating for collective entrepreneurship and cooperative opportunities, identifying and addressing systemic barriers that perpetuate poverty, such as inadequate education, lack of affordable housing, and limited access to healthcare, developing, finalizing a functional work plan, which the Commission has been working on. The Poverty on Commission has designed a functional work plan to implement, so finalizing that actual work plan, playing a vital role in ensuring commissioners from each ward is appointed to the Commission. That is a priority of mine, as well as the Commission's, and ensuring that the Commission is operating with funding through independent or government-funded sources. In closing, I quote my favorite biblical passage, Proverbs 19 and 17, "Whosoever is generous to the poor lendeth to the Lord, and he will repay him for his deeds." I want to reiterate my commitment to fighting poverty in District of Columbia. I firmly believe that working together, we can build a city where every resident has the opportunity to thrive and succeed. My dedication to this cause is unwavering, and I am eager to contribute my skills to the Commission on Poverty. So thank you for this opportunity. I'm ready to answer any questions as time allows.
Thank you. Thank you both for your presentations. Mr. Moses, I know that you may be on the time limit, so I just would like to ask you just a very few questions about your role on the Poverty Commission. The documentation that we received is very well done. It points out a number of issues that you are concerned with. Is this a document that the board approves, that is drafted by the staff and then the board votes to approve it? Or is this a document that the commission actually develops and then the board staff publishes it?
And is this the poverty reduction plan?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, so the poverty reduction plan was actually outsourced to a consultant, and that consultant was Medici Road, and they were procured through the Department of Employment Services through a OCP process. And through that process, excuse me, it's kind of people in the background, and through that process, the commission at the time worked with the staff of the Poverty Commission at the time, and through a process of time, listening sessions, activities, research, etc., ultimately the board did, or the commission, let me say, at the time voted to approve the poverty reduction plan. So yes.
Okay, what I'm really was curious about whether or not it is a document that the commission members had input on and created a process to design it, or was it one that the staff actually pulled together and then said, okay, here's your manifesto. Now
Oh,
vote on
no,
it.
great question. So yes, the commissioners at the time did have an active role in providing insight, direction, thoughts, rebuttals, and that went through an iterative process to be able to speak on what the commission saw, as well as the staff at the time who were appointed through the Department of Employment Service and the consultant. Now, this is not a document that the commission, as volunteers, had the capacity to complete in its own right, because most of the commission members are either, well, all of the commissioner members are volunteers, and most of the commission members are doubling doing some other service to provide for the basic needs and function. So yes, we did have the opportunity to speak on, object, cajole, encourage, redirect, and comment on the commission, the poverty reduction plan.
Thank you very much. I just assumed that in this preparation of this document, that it was rather intense. The goals are very important. So I was just very curious as to how it was prepared. So thank you very much for that. You also mentioned that poverty is a situation where you can smell it, you can taste it, it looks a certain way, it has a certain location and population. Can you expound on what that really means?
Sure. No, I'm not. Excuse me, I'm preparing for a 12 p.m. meeting. But yeah, so when I think about poverty, I think that it's a word that people use. But if you have ever either domiciled in a poor community, experienced poverty, or visited someone who is experiencing poverty, it does not necessarily have the same taste or smell or feel or environment as, let's say, living in a high rise in Northwest DC. The environment is totally different. So prior to, let's say, the Kenilworth housing projects being renovated, I had the opportunity to serve residents in that community. And when I go over there, it doesn't smell like it does in downtown DC in many cases. It's a different smell. People are living with no doors. So, for example, I visited Clay Terrace and did work over there. And granted, it was a number of years ago. Even when I visit more recently, let's say the previous Kenilworth housing projects, the conditions that people live in, these are real people, these are human beings. And sometimes the word poverty is attached to a concept and not real human beings. Sometimes poverty is attached to, oh, it's that homeless guy with a sign and maybe he's on drugs. No, these are real human beings with real experiences that if we communicate with them, we get a chance to see that this has a location, it has a feel. You can shake a poor person's hand, you can talk to them, you can communicate with them. And they're not often interested in being in that position. But the way, and without going into too much detail about metacognition and the brain works, is that sometimes if you acclimate it to an environment, then that is the environment that you adjust to. So that's what I mean by that.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. You're helping, in my opinion, to set the stage for who we are and what is the work of this commission. I really appreciate hearing from you. And so as chairperson, it's very important to understand your definition of poverty. And I agree with you. It's a word that many of us just throw around, and we think it's all about individuals not having money, when it's so much more. So thank you very much for that. Ms. Boyd, may I ask you, what is your definition of poverty, since you are a trained social worker and pretty much know so much about this thing that we call poverty.
Thank you. Actually, I'm not a social worker. I happen to work in social. I happen to work in social services. I'm in Ward 8. I'm so grateful to be here because being here on a daily basis has opened my eyes to so many different things. First is that mindset, people not feeling like they may be able to get out of a situation. Those are some of the barriers that we work really hard to address, because even though opportunities may be presented, we have to provide those additional support systems, those mental health services, all of those things. When I first got here, the first thing a resident told me was, you have to address the trauma first. No matter how many programs you bring over, if people are still experiencing a lot of trauma because of the things that they've experienced in their lifetime, then they're not going to be able to be successful. So for me, it starts with the mindset and everything else follows. I hope that answers your question.
No, I appreciate that very much. Thank you so very, very much. I was thinking too, and this I do believe is correct, that you have program evaluation skills. And that to me sounds like something that you bring to the table on this commission. So, how do you see using your skills, since you are going to be relatively new to the commission, but certainly a individual who is adept at identifying poverty?
First, I'd like to take a deep dive to see what's working. Where are we right now? Where are we with the reduction plan? Are these strategies working? What's not working needs to be tweaked. So I think we have to be flexible in that process. There has been a lot of change in the district, especially after the pandemic. So much has changed. You have people that are still afraid to come out of their homes and interact and go into broader spaces. I face that challenge every day as we develop programs. So I think we need to take a deep dive into what currently exists, how residents are responding to it, what is the effectiveness of the program. I think that's the foundation, is really where are we, and that way we have our baseline.
All right. You also mentioned that the identity, you're going to identify practical solutions that strengthen economic stability. What does that mean as goals for and activities for this commission?
Could you repeat the question for me again, please, Councilman?
I'm just trying to understand the you indicated that you'll be helping to identify practical strategies that strengthen economic stability. And so I'm trying to understand how you see the commission helping to strengthen the economics of a family, of a household, of a, as Mr. Moses indicated, a location or a population.
I think the key thing is what systems, looking at the systems that are currently in place, um, what's working, what's not. Are the pathways that are provided, for example, say in an employment space, for trainings that are provided, are these trainings that are going to lead to sustainable income that will help lift people out of poverty? And so if they make over a certain dollar amount and they're no longer eligible for SNAP benefits, will families be able to sustain themselves? So I think we need to look at where dollars are being put into a variety of programs to ensure that families are actually able to move to the next level and not keep them at or below the federal poverty level.
All right. Well, I certainly appreciate that. I have a couple of basic questions that we have to always ask of individuals who, we call them the questions for the record. And so I'll just read them and you can answer yes or no. Do you or any member of your immediate family have any interest, financial or otherwise, that may directly or indirectly pose a conflict of interest for you in the performance of your duties as a member of the commission?
No.
Mr. Moses, I assume you were asked these when you came on some time ago, or no?
Yes, I was
Is this
asked.
your first confirmation?
Mine?
Yes, yes, sir.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay, all right, okay.
You know, I want to be indelibly etched in your mind from my first confirmation, but I see that has not happened. So, but no, this.
No. Okay. All right, and here's the second one. Have you ever received a written warning, been officially reprimanded, suspended, or disciplined for misconduct in the workplace?
No.
No, me neither.
Have you ever received a warning as it relates for violating a security rule or policy?
No.
No.
All right. Well, thank you very much to both of you for your participation. I have a zillion questions here that we could talk all day, but what I'd like to do, if we can, is to just move forward, okay? And we'll thank you. And now I'll bring up the in-person panel for the rest of our confirmation hearing today. And thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we will have Mr. Isaac Harris, Mr. Cesar Toledo, and Ms. Cadilia Williams. That's it. All right. If you will join us at the witness table. Thank you so much. And now we will we'll ask you to raise your right hand. We'll swear you in. All right. Do you swear and affirm that your testimony and any statement that you make before us today to be truthful and complete? Thank you. Thank you very much. And so, Ms. Harris, Ms. Williams, we'll start with you. We'll take your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Bonds, and members of the council and Chairwoman Bonds' staff. My name is Khadija Williams, and I am honored to appear before you today as an at-large appointee to the District's Commission on Poverty. I currently serve as the National Senior Director of Policy and Advocacy at LIFT, a national anti-poverty organization dedicated to advancing family economic mobility through a model that pairs direct cash support with long-term coaching, helping families stabilize financially and pursue their own goals for opportunity and security. In this role, I lead policy and advocacy strategy across multiple regions, including Washington, D.C., building the infrastructure, coalitions, and evaluation systems that translate lived experience into lasting systems change. I also serve as a thought partner and leader, formally and informally, across multiple local and national organizations and coalitions. I have lived and worked in and for DC for over 10 years. But long before I worked in policy, I experienced poverty firsthand. I grew up experiencing homelessness and instability. That experience informs how I approach the work today, not just as a policy professional, but as someone who understands the systems we are discussing from the inside. The Commission on Poverty has an opportunity to play a critical role in elevating data, community voice, and cross-sector solutions that can reduce poverty in the district. At LIFT, our policy work similarly centers the voices of families themselves, ensuring that those closest to the challenges are shaping the solutions. In my role as interim vice chair since October 2025 on the commission, I have been working with fellow commissioners and our chair to strengthen the commission's impact. This includes planning a public roundtable series on poverty in DC to solicit feedback from both community members and experts on the state of poverty in DC, coordinating a research partnership with George Washington University to strengthen commission governance and effectiveness based on best practice from poverty commissions across the country, exploring ways to pay commissioners who are experiencing poverty, and strengthening the public engagement and listening sessions tied to the Commission's 5-year poverty reduction plan. We are also expanding the Commission's visibility and partnerships, including hosting conversations with emerging global leaders focused on poverty reduction, such as the delegation from Dartmouth's King Scholars Program. These efforts are all aimed at strengthening the Commission's ability to elevate evidence, community insight, and practical policy solutions that can meaningfully reduce poverty in the district. There have certainly been challenges implementing the Commission's edict, including recruiting commissioners whose own experiences reflect those who we serve, and being able to have the infrastructure and resources to resources to do the sort of community outreach necessary to establish trust within the community, which have impacted our progress to cut poverty in half by 2026 and led to budget cuts. However, the commission that's in front of you right now is a fundamentally different commission, which has the opportunity and the power to be the voice of those in poverty, the power and the opportunity to the power and the opportunity to change how we tackle poverty and eliminate it for good. To be a space where eliminating poverty is its sole charge, a unique space where the agency leaders, council, and nonprofit community leaders can collaborate and ideate, where best practice on addressing poverty from across the country can be assessed, elevated, debated, and introduced, where cutting-edge research driven by, not for, those in poverty can propose practical yet innovative solutions to address poverty in a way that meets the specific needs of the district. It is my hope that together with our new commissioners, we can begin to honor our obligation to the district and serve as an incubator for practical, bold ideas that work alongside our communities to eliminate poverty. I ask not only for your confirmation, but for your support in helping the commission meet this obligation to the district. If confirmed, I look forward to continuing to bring together experience, policy expertise, and community voice to help ensure that the district's strategies to reduce poverty are both effective and grounded in the realities that communities face. Thank you so much for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you very much for your statement. Thank you very much. Mr. Harris. All right, we'll take your statement now.
Morning, Chairperson Bonds and members of the committee. I'm Isaac Harris, and it is my pleasure to receive your consideration for my nomination to serve on the Commission on Poverty. I am grateful to Mayor Muriel Bowser for nominating me and honored to have the opportunity to serve the residents of our district. Born in Washington, D.C., I have been a lifelong resident who at an early age had developed the understanding of how important human rights are for all persons. My parents have spearheaded the creation of the Community for Creative Nonviolence, which is CCNV, with Ms. Schneider. And I've always felt the need to help, from reporting abandoned dogs to the Humane Society to helping around CCNV with my parents and the community. I've lived through the many phases of DC. I've made it through the many phases that DC has been through, and I'm driven through my own personal experiences with poverty in DC. And the many stories that have been shared to me to at least get these ideas out and be the voice for the unheard. I pursued involvement with the Commission on Poverty with encouragement from the staff at the Coalition, which is formerly CNHED, where I was a part of a working group they held a few years ago, which helped boost my confidence to speak on these experiences I have lived and heard. I believe that with my 15 years of experiences with volunteering at CCNV, working directly with the homeless, and my lifelong tie to Washington, D.C., would be a great addition to talks and initiatives on anything related to poverty in the district. I myself have been homeless for 15 years and have had to use services for those impacted by poverty to even transitioning out of poverty by receiving a voucher and an apartment last October through the D.C. Housing Authority. I believe that this commission is extremely important. I have always felt, especially with my time growing up in DC through being a father now in the district, that there has been an issue with poverty in the district, and we are at a point where information, experiences, and initiative has to come together to make a difference. My focus has always been the belief that housing is a human right, and my volunteer work with CCNV has allowed that to happen with those impacted by poverty. I'm here as a voice of the district and also proof that what this commission and the local government has done to help those impacted by poverty can transition from poverty and also share valuable information from experiencing poverty. Thank you, Chairperson Bonds, for the opportunity to testify before this committee. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much for your statement. And Mr. Toledo, we'll take your statement as well.
Good morning, Chairperson Anita Bonds, members of the committee, staff. My name is Cesar Toledo, and it is my pleasure to receive your consideration for my nomination to serve on the Commission on Poverty. Thank you, Mayor Bowser, for the nomination, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to serve the residents of the district. My interest in addressing poverty in the district is a deeply personal one. I grew up in a humble home raised by immigrant parents where my mother and father came to this country. They had nothing in their pockets but hopes and dreams in achieving the American dream. My childhood shaped my understanding of how immigrant families struggle to get by, from learning a new language to navigating the services available to them. When I reflect on that time, I recall the number of Latino men from my community who were in and out of the criminal justice system, stuck in a difficult cycle. Education created a pathway to my success and showed my brother, sister, and cousins a way out of the cycle of poverty. Later in life, I witnessed firsthand the realities that many people face in the developing world while serving as a Peace Corps in Uganda. Today, as the executive director for the Wanda Alston Foundation, I lead an organization that provides housing and support services for at-risk and homeless LGBTQ young people disproportionately impacted by homelessness. Through this work, I see every day how poverty intersects with housing, employment, education, and health. LGBTQ plus young people remain disproportionately impacted by homelessness in our city. About 40% of all homeless youth in DC identify as LGBTQ plus youth. And last year's time count showed a 9% increase in this population. Listening to the stories and experiences of the young people we serve has grounded my understanding of poverty and homelessness, and I believe that perspective would help me serve as a more informed commissioner. My journey here today is by means no accident, but rather a calling to step up and give back. That's why I applied to the Commission on Poverty to support our local government in addressing the urgent gaps facing the most vulnerable members of our community. While I approach this opportunity with humility, I hope to bring a perspective grounded both in lived experience and frontline service. I believe effective policy must be informed by the voices of those who are impacted and focused on actionable strategies centered on affordable housing, economic mobility, and long-term opportunity for all district residents. If confirmed, I look forward to supporting the Commission's work by engaging the diversity of our community, leveraging data to help shape narratives around poverty in the district, and build momentum for the report's recommendations. Thank you, Chairperson Anita Bonds, for the opportunity to testify before this committee. I would be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. Thank you to all three of our in-person witnesses, really nominees for appointment to this important board. Ms. Williams, I'd like to ask you as the sitting vice chair, if you can help me understand where the board is today. Because if I'm not mistaken, you were created, the board was created, the commission was created, 3 years ago. And I'm very, very curious as to any of the work that you've been able to accomplish. Like I said to Mr. Moses, I'm impressed with the narrative, but what have we been able to accomplish?
Yes, as I shared in my written testimony, I believe that we as a commission have not yet been able to fully implement what we are obligated to do for a couple of reasons. One is that the commission was appointed in 2023 and 2024, which gave us limited time to implement and really like draft the Poverty Commission plan. And it was done so without the context of COVID, which is, I think, a serious challenge. The other piece is that we have struggled to appoint commissioners of lived experience in poverty, which I think, especially someone who has lived experience, is a really serious issue. One of the things that I'd love to explore legislatively, if there's a way we can change the legislation so that we can pay those who are currently in poverty to be on the commission, because those who are currently on the commission who are professionals, they're getting paid through their jobs. But if we're going to ask those who are in poverty to be on the commission, we need to be able to compensate in some way. And it's something that's really important to me. I think the third reason is because since it took some time for our commission to gel, and we've had some turnover, that has made it difficult to, I think, implement. And so I think it's a variety of infrastructural challenges in addition to us like growing together as a commission with a very tight period of time. What I will say is that since that time in the past year, the commission has really gelled together as a commission. Our chair is working on a work plan that he has hosted 2 sessions with commission members in order to get their input in addition with community members. I have also, I'm working with someone in DOAS, Ty Grooms, with Georgetown or George Washington, I believe, in order to understand best practice across commissions, in order to make recommendations for how we should run as a commission, guided by that best practice, and really thinking through how to involve individuals who are not on the commission but who have expertise through roundtables and other means. And so what I would say is we have a pretty report, but underneath that pretty report, I don't think that we have done what we needed to do as a commission to meet the obligations. But what I'm excited about is that the commission, the nominees, the work that has been done just in the past 6 months is a fundamentally different commission from the commission that was before. And you are going to see some really good work moving forward as a result. And that I'm really excited about.
Thank you very much for that. And I hope that helps Mr. Moses to understand why I'm like, okay, yes, I remember the name. And now we'll be able to talk about how you're moving forward. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And I especially appreciate your honesty. That's the first step. Us understanding that we're here, we've been in place, but now is the time to really make something happen. So thank you. Has the commission began to look at the fact that poverty is likely to increase in the District of Columbia because of the economy?
Yes. One of the challenges that resulted from us not being able to fully implement our IDIC is that our budget was slashed. And so as a result, we don't have the same level of research team that we've had in the past. We have Ty, who is amazing, but he is also an employee of DOAS and he has to split his time. And so as much as he's very, very available to me and has done amazing work, he is only one person. And so one of the things that we are thinking through is how, given our current smaller budget, how can we utilize research and resources of the community that's like experts, as an example, in order to get a greater picture? Because I think that we know that poverty will and has increased and it will continue to increase, especially with a couple of changes to eviction law that have unfortunately come to pass in the district. Is we need to understand what it looks like specifically in DC. And so one of the things that we're doing is talking to outside experts, conducting planning listening sessions. In fact, Moses has a listening session plan that he'll talk about in our next commission meeting on the 31st. That will happen in Ward 8. He's also planning one in Ward 1 as well, that he'll talk to the commission about, in order to really understand from the people on the ground what poverty is really like. And so to answer your question, the answer is yes, we're doing what we can with our limited resources. And one of the things that we're going to do in order to further be able to do that and understand what's coming across the district, in addition to being creative, is asking for additional funding with a plan, being like, hey, this is how we plan to use the money, so that we're not just like, oh, just give us extra money. Like, that's not how that works. So that we can do the kind of research that is necessary in order to fully understand what's going on. So to briefly answer your question, yes, we're being creative and talking to experts, both lived experience experts and experts on the ground who have researched this to understand what poverty looks like, doing a series of listening sessions, and also identifying what needs we have in order to do a better job of doing that with resources internally.
Well, thank you very much for that. I guess I'm a little concerned that your thought is to have money for research when there is so much data collected every day by the not-for-profit service community and even from within the government agencies. So I would think that at this point, it would be very helpful for the commission to develop an action plan to identify, one or two specific areas. When I say areas, like subjects that you're going to tackle. You mentioned eviction, and I think earlier there were a couple of other areas that were alluded to, but certainly I think it's time to let's get boots on and let's move the agendas. That's what I would think. As it relates to your research needs, you mentioned someone at DOES. Who is that?
His name is Ty Grooms, and he's a staff person that DOES assigned to us to be able to support us, because according to legislation, the commission is supposed to have 3 staff people, but because of the challenges we had, that budget was slashed, and so DOAS has provided us with a staff person with split time to support the commission. So there's supposed to be, according to legislation, like I get what you mean by like paying for research. There are specific things that the commission is required to do, including conducting research, but that doesn't necessarily mean conducting new research. That can mean literally bringing the research together from nonprofit, from agencies, and several agent heads sit on the commission. That takes capacity and time to do that, to bring it all together. So I get what you mean. And I don't mean like, let's just pay for another research project. Like, that's not what I mean. Is like, what is it that the commission is obligated to do per legislation? And what resources do we have to do that?
All right. And so you are correct. One of the goals of the commission is to be aware of the research and how it can be utilized to bring down poverty. But Mr. Harris, what do you say about this goal of research? as a focus of the commission. How do you see it?
I mean, data is extremely important. And as it's been said multiple times today, the lived experience is extremely important. As right after I leave from here, I'm going back to the shelter up the street. I'm going to go volunteer as I do every week. And as I said in my testimony, I see it every day. I see many different walks of life. I see folks who come in who haven't even realized that they are homeless yet. They still have, that mentality that they deserve things that they've had, but they've lost them. So data is extremely important. But I do believe being around those folks that you get the data from is also important. It molds a lot better, in my opinion.
So the data that you see through being with the population, how does it inform you that society needs to do? I mean, what is it? How do we get people out of poverty? Those that you see, that you work with on a regular basis.
It would, especially when it comes to not knocking any of the nonprofits in the district, but when it comes to the nonprofits, definitely more thorough investigation, understanding someone's limits, or they don't have any limits. There's a lot of I can go on about it for forever, but to making sure it's definitely more thorough casework. Caseworkers actually, even in my experience, actually doing their casework, not just holding a position. I feel like that's been a common topic that I've had with my fellow coworkers at the shelter that also volunteer. And we've all agreed that, we can't, most caseworkers have a caseload of maybe 25 plus. But to at least show that you care about those 25 people, investigate, talk to them, actually provide the services you're supposed to. That's important. That's very important. And like I said, I could go even further, but especially diving into traumas, that's very important, especially for me as someone who has gone through a lot of things living in the district from the 90s to now, and even my own personal mental health, which I've had to get help with between 2020 and 2023. I had to do through 3 years of therapy behind not just my own personal issues with poverty, but also me seeing it every single day. And, it's to me, I don't think that the shelter is a bad thing, but to me, it shouldn't exist, especially not in the district. We should be taking care of our folks. And a lot of folks that are in that shelter are Washingtonians who have been here for 40 plus years. A lot of them. It's not a lot of transplants or anything. So that's definitely that's been my focus for the past 15 years plus, growing up in the community.
I think you told me that to get out of poverty, for the population that you worked with, having caseworkers, case managers that actually work with the population is very important, and implying that that's not quite what's happening now. Is it that you do not have enough caseworkers, or?
Well, so recently, again, I'm not trying to knock anything, but we at the shelter, CCMV has been there for 40 plus years.
Yes.
And I know that it has seemed difficult to get caseworkers to come in, but I feel like there's been a miscommunication between the district and CCMV. But recently we've had a satellite office installed at the shelter with Department of Human Services, and they'll come sometimes. They'll post up a day that they're supposed to come, and they're not there. Right now we have a DBH representative, and he hasn't been there every day. He's supposed to be there, I think, on Tuesdays. He hasn't even been there every day that he's supposed to be there.
And that's your issue about the mental
Yes.
health help.
Yes.
You need to have that regularly.
Yes, ma'am. I feel like that should be the pathway into DBH, and then you can kind of set folks where they need to head to. Just trying to, like I said, I'm trying to keep it a little short because I can talk too much. So
No, I appreciate this because, I asked Ms. Williams, a little bit about what can we do to move from research to practicum. How do we really begin to see that people are leaving poverty, coming out? And so all of this, this is a very candid discussion, yes, but it's also one that will help us to understand that here we are another year, and we're not just studying it, that we really know some of the conditions well enough to then advocate for let's move, and how do we do it, and what are the systems we need in order to do it with. So I appreciate that. So, you also said, this is what I heard, you said, reduce the number of shelters. We have too many shelters.
reduce them in the sense of that folks aren't homeless.
Exactly, but yep, okay. Yep, because if we reduce the number of shelters, that means we will not have the clientele that needs the shelters. So that's how I was looking at that. Anything else you want to add to the list before Mr. Toledo gets into his list?
No, ma'am. That's all.
All right, Mr. Toledo, what do you see what do you see in the population that you work with are things that you need to advocate for, things that this commission needs to advocate for? Your time.
Yes. So, yes, Cesar Toledo here, and I have a really incredible job, and every single day I show up and I represent the Wanda Alston Foundation, which provides housing and support services for homeless LGBTQ plus young people here in the district. The organization has been around since 2008 to honor the life and legacy of Wanda Alston, who was just an incredible advocate and champion for the underserved communities. DC today, and for a long time, has been one of the gayest cities in the world. And because of the support of council, right, various mayors and advocates on the ground, it's created a really safe haven for the community. Therefore, folks from across the country come seeking a place to call home. And disproportionately, young people who face rejection, who are escaping, the poverty cycle, who have had issues with the criminal justice system, right, or the foster care system, come to our doors to seek a safe bed. And so what I think of the Commission of Poverty, when I think about my role, what can the city do? Well, we need more beds, unfortunately. That's the reality. Today, the continuum of care pipeline serving our queer young people is at capacity nearly every day. And so more beds, more services, and unfortunately, more money. However, we as service providers also have to step up and do things differently. And so we are trying to figure out, who in the district is doing really exemplary work that we can replicate. What can we do differently that other cities are doing? Really learn from others to really support the young people we save, that we house. And then I just want to go back to the topic around data, because I think that is so critical that we lean into, right? To one, look at bottlenecks, using data and figures to understand services, the quality of services, right? Understand programs in the city that really address some of the root causes of poverty. As a service provider, we get reimbursed for services. And thankfully, DHS has just been incredible in being able to process those reimbursements within 30 days, unheard of in some other departments. And so that is critical for organizations to be equipped to provide the services that they need to provide to their populations. And then two, thinking about trends. what trends are we seeing in the city to really address head on, right, that are of urgent and of crisis? And then also what trends are good things that we can look at and to point to showcase, yes, we're making progress, right? When it comes to education, when it comes to economic growth. And then of course, so I think those are a few thoughts that I have.
All right, so your list is, we need more attention to those who would fall into the foster care system because they are coming to the district and we are experiencing overcrowdedness. We need more beds, the capacity. So that's sort of like housing those. So, okay, I have a bed. I came here from Ohio and I have a bed. But is that all I should get, knowing I have a bed every night? I'm trying, yeah.
Yes, no.
So how are you going to get me off that bed and doing something with my wake hours?
Yes, and so the district has a number of transitional housing programs, between 2 to 3 year programs for young people in the district to be able to, one, just have safe housing. And then two is to really equip them with the resources and the tools to achieve independence. So that involves workforce programs, that involves, achieving some education goals. Right now, if I look at the youth that we serve, 65% have completed a high school education or received a GED. That to me needs to be addressed ASAP, right? Employment is really important to be able to, one, have pay stubs to be able to find permanent housing once when you leave the program, because there's a time limit, right? When it comes to mental health, making sure that, those mental health care therapy services are available firsthand and 24/7 for these young people who have a number of intersectional challenges. And so there's just a number of those things that I can think of, even just economic. When I looked at last year's youth that we served in 2025, if memory recalls correctly, it was like 60% had a savings account. And so those are the things that we in our program are looking to address head on. And I know we're not the only one. Queer homeless service providers across the city, just homeless service providers across the city, are doing everything they can with the capacity they have.
All right, you added to your list the tools that you're going to give me so that in my wake time, I'm going to be concerned with getting an education, at least graduating from high school, and workforce, a job, skills training, mental health services, certainly stable housing. So I'm not like just in a shelter, but I'm more stabilized on a regular basis. And of course, financial literacy. Okay. All right. I know I'm pulling from you all these things because we so frequently have wonderful outlines. We are a report generating people called the District of Columbia. And so I'm just really, my point today is to say, how are we going to lift people up? Okay, so we've now talked about the areas that we know are necessary to lift people up. So I'm hoping that the commission will come up with some very concrete strategies that we need to do as a city, as a town, as a community, to really lift people up. In some neighborhoods, they've done pretty creative things. And I'm not speaking just of putting individuals on TANF or a voucher. I'm speaking of how do we really go beyond that so that the dignity of an individual gets to shine, so that we understand some of the individuals that Mr. Moses is training in carpentry, have a job and a regular job and feel like they are making a contribution in in society. And so that our young people have the opportunity, even if they're in a shelter bed, to get an education and to go on and soar and become whatever they want to and make a contribution, a positive contribution to our society. So that's why I was asking that question. Out of curiosity, Mr. Toledo, I wanted to know if any of your young people are in need of, does any of your young people have language access or immigration status concerns?
Yes, that is absolutely an issue and a major concern that's top of mind because of the new restrictions that are going to be placed on certain social programs, so they don't have access to them anymore. So there's that. Language barriers that are constantly there, right? We have a lot of Spanish speakers. We have folks who come from other countries, again, seeking refuge and safety from prosecution, from anti-LGBTQ attacks, and just incredible obstacles. And so absolutely, that population exists and it is here. And we as a city welcome them with open arms. And we do everything we can with the little resources that we are equipped by the city to support them on that healing journey while achieving independence.
You also mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, that some of the young people are sort of like refugees from crime or some criminal background, maybe?
When I mentioned that, it was referring to folks who have had different interactions at different levels, right? And so whether they've had family who've been
I
incarcerated
see.
or they themselves have, left the juvenile detention center or the system. And so those experiences impact their ACE scores and their ability to be able to kind of heal, achieve independence, and be able to pick themselves up.
How about you, Mr. Harris? Within your shelter system, are you running across individuals that have indications that they're in the criminal justice system, have been, or that is an issue?
It comes up. We recently had a connection with I have the department wrong. It's on 2100 MLK Avenue. Reentry program.
Yes.
We had a conversation. I had a conversation with I think the person that runs it, and I've always wondered personally how we can guide someone to go that way. But now that I know that, I know I can send them that way and they can get reentry help. There's definitely services for it, but I've noticed with me personally, especially at CCNV, the majority of our thing is a lot of folks with mental health issues, or they have been homeless for maybe 2 to 3 decades. These are folks that I saw growing up when I was young, staying with my parents, and they were out in the streets, and now they're still in the shelter system out in the streets. That's been my main focus so far. So.
Okay, so when you talk about chronic homelessness, I don't think any of us think about it being 2 to 3 decades.
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, I met many folks. I can't walk anywhere in the city without someone knowing me or my parents and the work that they did. And like I said, I've realized that there are some guys who, like I said, I was 5 years old. They used to take me to McDonald's or something. They're still outside panhandling. They may have had a voucher, maybe they lost a voucher. There's been many things in their lives, but they are still in that same position. And it's like I said, I've had my own experience with it. I've had about a decade off and on of being homeless myself, working and living at the shelter because staff stay there 24/7. So it's recently, this is why I've decided to try to come out and speak about it. I've been working in the trenches per se, but I think getting some of this out and letting folks know that there is someone who's willing to speak. And for the folks who don't want to come and speak, I will speak for them if I can.
Thank you for that. Ms. Williams, the research that you all have studied, through your, I think you mentioned your outreach sessions with others. Are there any other conditions that we identify as persons being in poverty that we need to lift up, or have we covered them?
So the federal and local definition of poverty is not complete. So it's based on something in like 1960s where it's like where you spend a third of your income on food or something. That's not the case anymore. As an example, there's a lot of rhetoric about, oh, people in poverty have cell phones. If you don't have a cell phone, you are completely cut off from the world. You can't apply for work. You can't get resources. You can't get services. And so the way that we think about poverty is still very backwards. And it's not actually, it's a definition where it's like, if you're not actively dying, you're fine. And so one of the things that we need to do is we need to actually understand, what does it take to live in expensive cities like District of Columbia and not just barely get by and be like, oh, my paycheck is coming up, so like I can maybe make this work, and like actually be able to survive, actually be able to take a day off of work. Like if you're in poverty, there's no taking days off work. And like being able to take your kids to the park, like not having to worry whether you have to like choose your utility bill or your food bill. Our definition of poverty is very much not based on thriving, but just on existing and not actively dying. And so we really need to come up with a definition that is one where it's like, what is the expectation that we would want for our children to be able to live? And how do we make that be a definition for everyone, regardless of income, regardless of status, regardless of whether or not they've been involved in the criminal justice system? How do we make that definition and actually show the rest of the country this is how we treat people who've experienced poverty, because we care about thriving?
So while we are lifting people out of poverty, the Poverty Commission sounds like it's also concerned with a good quality of life.
Yes.
So it could encompass all of us, really and truly. If we have the means to take care of ourselves, our household, financially, but also if we have the social skills to treat others with dignity and respect, that's also a part of what you're looking at.
Yes. Yes.
All right, I appreciate that. So I'm going to be very curious as to how you're moving forward over the next few months. I don't believe the Poverty Commission is on our lineup for a budget review, but I will ask if you have a budget line. Ms. Williams, I'm asking you if there is a budget line for the Poverty Commission currently.
Right now, as far as I understand, no, we had one in the past. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but I can get that information for you, our budget is, we basically don't have a budget right now, but we do have a line item. We just don't have a budget.
You have a line item and you have 3 staffers.
No, we have part of a DOAS staff person.
Okay, but the legislation
Says 3, yes.
Okay, and did the legislation also give you the ability to have a standalone budget?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Okay. That would be important because, and you indicated that you needed money.
So we need money, but we also need to demonstrate how we will use that money. And
Mhm.
that's working with the new commissioners to like think through what do we need and what does it look like to spend that money well? Because I don't believe in just asking for money just because we're
All right.
obligated to, because some legislation says we should have it.
Okay. So the situation is that, is it next week or in 2 weeks? The council begins the process of reviewing the mayor's budget, which will articulate certain amounts for each agency and each program. And you're considered a program because legislation created you, the Poverty Commission. So I'd be curious to see what you said. You have a line item. Okay, we'll see what that is. So my expectation is that there would be Poverty Commission and that it would be a line item with a line item meaning a budget. And if legislation says you have 3 FTEs or 3 staff, that would be my expectation. If it's something else, well, guess what? The council has the last word on the expenditures in this government. Of the $22 billion, we have the last word on the expenditures. So I'm just telling you what I'm expecting. So I'm very hopeful that the budget that we get will so inform us.
May I make
Because I
another?
plan on following the law. And I know you do too.
Yes, I have another request as well. It's currently not allowed for in legislation as far as I understand. But it's best practice and it's just important that those with lived experience who are giving their expertise or compensated in some way can we look into that?
That would, in my opinion, be one of the tenets of the budget.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hold on 1 minute. Let me check with staff. You know, they may have something I need to do.
Hey, you didn't mess up. You were amazing. You saw how much I messed up my testimony.
You did mess up. I think all of us.
I do have just a few more questions. How are senior citizens factored into your 10 key policy recommendations? And I would have to ask Ms. Williams because she's on the commission currently.
Yes, I believe that our report has like a recommendation for seniors, but I'm not sure that it is robust enough, I feel, because the commission has a very large, which makes sense, um, um, uh, I forgot the term, but basically the thing you're supposed to do, to address poverty across different domains. And so I feel that the report is a good start, but that's something that we need to look at, is making sure that we have recommendations that are across like poverty that's like for families, for those who are experiencing criminal justice, for seniors, because it is part of our requirements per legislation.
All right. Do you have a copy of your key policy recommendations?
Yes, I can pull that up.
All right. If you would recite them in just the topics and for the public record, that would be helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Just give me one moment. I'll pull that up.
Mhm. Okay. While you're looking, I actually have the summary here, so I will put this part in the record and then you can add to it. The report from the Commission on Poverty submitted to the council by the administration of course, Mayor Muriel Bowser does in fact outline 10 policy recommendations designed to reduce poverty in the district by 50% by the year 2026. So I'm sure that will be updated. In 2022, 89,000 DC residents were identified as living in poverty, with the highest concentration in wards 7 and 8. And the commission developed a strategy based on research, community input, and analysis of social factors such as housing, employment, education, healthcare, and childcare. If fully implemented, the recommendation could lift more than 50,000 residents out of poverty. And remember, this is from 2022 when it was first articulated, and when the thought then was that about 89,000 residents were living in poverty, primarily concentrated in Ward 7 and 8. And these are the policies that I'm looking at. As was in the 2022 document. Housing repair tax, the creation of a 0.5% sales tax dedicated to housing repairs and rehabilitation, improving housing conditions and instability. And with the thought that this would could lift as many as nearly 10,000 out of poverty. Then 2 miles to wellness, which was healthcare expansion, build healthcare hubs with hospital, urgent care, and recovery services. Then target medically underserved areas. Again, and I think Cedar Hill Hospital is attempting to be a point for that. And this was estimated as a way to lift more than 1,000 individuals out of poverty. Then universal basic income to provide money, cash money per month to adults for 3 years, and with the focus also providing up to $1,000 for SNAP recipients. Of course, aim to stabilize incomes, and the estimate was that 33,000 could be lifted from poverty if we were able to do that. And you know the status of our budget, so having, yeah, will find its way to be a little difficult for sure. And then, of course, all of this is going to be difficult when we're in our current budget, season, but at least you were thinking about it at a time when we had a little bit of surplus happening every year. Amazon Career Choice Partnership to expand job training and education programs, and include housing vouchers for the participants. And this was estimated to impact 350 households that were stuck in poverty. And it just goes on, and it has like home-based daycare, support small daycare businesses in homes. And that could help an estimated 700 households. And then, of course, I'll just read one other. In addition, substitute teacher pay increases, increased pay and bonuses for the substitute teachers to help improve school stability and employment. And that was for about 250 households. So you covered a lot of ground here, but from what you have articulated today, you see we've added to the list. And it's easy to add to the list because as you have indicated in your testimony today and your comments, poverty is more than how we look at people, look at individuals. It's about real life, real situations that they're facing, and it's usually what they're facing in their daily lives. So I just wanted us to be sure to have that as a part of the record. Did I cover most of what you had?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I do have to ask a few questions for the record. Do you or any member of your immediate family have any interest, financial or otherwise, that may directly or indirectly pose a conflict of interest for you in the performance of your duties as a member of the commission?
No.
No,
All
No.
right.
no,
All right, thank you. Have you ever received a written warning, been officially reprimanded, suspended, or disciplined for misconduct in the workplace?
no,
No, ma'am.
So I didn't know how to answer this one. In 2014, I was separated from my role, but they attempted to place me in another role. And then in 2015, I was laid off, but they assured me they would rehire me. So I was like, it's not.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
again for your honesty. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you. All right. And so, is there anything that either of you would like to add to the record that we didn't cover that you think is very significant for the role that you're stepping into or being perhaps re-stepping into it? Mr. Harris.
No, nothing to add, no.
All right. Mr. Toledo.
nothing to add. Thank you.
Ms. Williams.
Just that I am really excited for us to step in this next stage. And as you said, actually get to action and not becoming just like a research think tank. And I encourage anyone who's watching this, other government agencies who are not on the commission, nonprofits and others who have like interest and expertise to please reach out to the commission because we want to hear from you because we're going to solve this together. So thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you. And I do recognize that a few, you still have vacancies on the commission. So I would engage anyone, as you said, who's listening. They can also be in touch with our office here at the council, and we'll make sure it gets to the right place, to the executive office of the mayor. Okay, for sure. I want to thank everyone who participated in today's public roundtable. I think that we have learned a lot about the commission and how it's moving forward. While it just takes a quick glance, over its shoulder, but certainly it is moving forward. If the public would like to submit written testimony, please upload it to the hearing management system on the DC Council's website, or you may email it to seal@dccouncil.gov, and that's CEAL@dccouncil.gov. The record will stay open until Thursday, the 26th of March at 5 p.m. And just want to, okay. Want to conclude by saying that the next matter before this committee, Committee on Executive Administration and Labor, will be on Wednesday, the 25th at 12 noon, and we will have an additional meeting. We're going to talk about Bill 26428, Youth Work Permit and Employment Protection Act of 2025, and the Bill 26-136, Special Election in the Office of Delegate Amendment Act of 2025. So thank you all again for your remarks, your input, and your testimony. And this concludes today's public roundtable. I'm wishing the nominees well as we move forward, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. The time is now, looks like it is 12:57 p.m., same day, and we are now adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.